Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Memo. You got Richard, Alex, and Matt, and this time I'm going to give a little shout out to the behind-the-scenes guys. We got Spencer McFarland, Mike Kornfeld, Vinny LaCasto, and Mike Villani. They're a big help, so I've never shouted them out yet. So
Production crew.
Thank you very much to them.
Couldn't do this without them.
Yes,
Big
of course.
thanks to them.
So we're bringing back this week. We got 3 segments again. We're bringing back the Stamp and Shred. We're bringing back the Scrap Heap, and this week we got a few fans that are going to call in. So that's going to be really cool. So we'll start it off the top. We're going to do the Stamp.
Before we start, I just want to give a quick shout out to a friend who has been asking me for weeks to shout him out, and I've been neglecting him. So I'd like to dedicate this show to him. His name is Adam P. Tellier and his terrible fantasy team.
Wow.
You know, he's doing the best he can. He's not really having much success. Texts me every week complaining. But, you know, he listens every week. One of my good buddies. And I hope you enjoy this week, Adam P. Follow him on Instagram, Adam P. Tellier.
Sounds a lot like Richard.
Hey, I won this week. I'm getting Kornfeld into the playoffs.
That is what's happening, right?
Yeah,
that is what's happening. You have a long shot.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, we'll
Done.
see.
You know,
You need
Andrew, at least
help
Andrew
this
Luck's on my roster. That's all that matters.
You need a lot of help this week. It's not impossible.
No, it's not. But, you know, it's one of those this, and this has to happen.
And one of those is Posner winning, so say your goodbyes.
Let's go in his Stamp or Shred. That's all we got from. All right. And the first statement we have in here. Show it to the crowd first. The Houston Texans are a legitimate threat in the AFC. Stamp or Shred? Now,
It's a tough one.
Texans have won 8 in a row. Technically 9 in a row because they play the Jets next week. So, I definitely think they're a legitimate threat in the AFC. They are in the AFC South. I understand that. Probably one of the weakest divisions in football, but they have what? You're right. Sorry.
I just want to prepare myself. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry for the interruption. They have Deshaun Watson, who we've talked about him in the past, but I think he's proved to this point that he's a legitimate quarterback, and he can run too, so he's a dual threat. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They just got Demaryius Thomas. They have Lamar Miller, decent running back. Like, the offense is there, and they have maybe not the greatest defense, but if you have J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, like, you can turn it up at any time. You can rush the quarterback, and in this league right now, the way it's going, that's really all that matters is can you get to the quarterback, because a lot of these offenses right now are so dynamite that it doesn't even matter. If you're not going to create that many turnovers, you're not really going to stop them. But if you can get to the quarterback, sack them, get them in long situations. My point is, I think they have the explosive offense, at least the potential to be one of those explosive offenses, to compete with every team in the AFC, and I think they have the pass rushers on defense and a good enough defense to compete. And I feel like the fact that they're in the AFC South is really overshadowing that they're 8-3. I mean, like, come on.
You know,
So you're stamping them?
Oh, yes. I am stamping the Houston Texans, which is, you know, you like to root for them. Starting off 0-3, turning it around takes a lot of heart to be able to keep the team on track.
you know,
Stamped.
You know, I like this team. I think they're good. I know they play in the AFC South, and I don't think it's just that though. You know, you look at their non-division opponents, and like, this team hasn't played that many good teams this year. They played the Patriots week 1, and you could say what you want about the Patriots. They're still the Patriots. They lost. They have some decent wins, I guess you can call them, over the Redskins, over the Cowboys, but you know, this team isn't there, and the rest of they may even win out this season. They might go 13-3. I mean, that would be crazy for them to win 13 straight games, but these last 5 games are winnable games. I think they play the Browns, the Colts, the Jaguars, but it's gonna be a wake up call when this team has to play one of the best teams in the AFC in the playoffs. I just don't see them. I can see them winning a playoff game. I can't see them making a run in the playoffs. So I'm gonna shred this. I don't think they're a legitimate threat. I think they're a good team, and I do think they're maybe a piece away, a year away.
They could possibly have a bye, and if they did win out, would they? Yeah. They'd probably be the other.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. They would probably have a bye.
Yeah. So
I don't think they're going to win out though.
No, they're probably not. But still, if from 13-3 to 11-5, like, you're still. I mean, they're a good team.
I do think they're a good team. I just think their record and this current winning streak is making people overrate them a little bit. A team that's going to go the whole season with their best wins being the Redskins, the Cowboys, I guess the Colts would be considered a good win. I just can't see them beating a team like the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Patriots again. I mean, they lost them already. I don't think they're going to miraculously turn it around and beat the Patriots especially in the playoffs. The Chargers, I really don't see them beating any of those teams.
The Patriots have 6 games a year against consistently bad teams, but like that never is a knock on how good they are.
But they come in first place every year. They're playing the first place teams from the year before.
That's true.
And again, that affects 2 games.
Yeah,
2 games, but I mean, I'm pointing out their best wins this season: Cowboys, Redskins, and the Colts.
That's why I'm gonna shred this as well. I was looking at their schedule like you were, like trying to find a quality win.
To interrupt you.
Shred that shit, man. Okay, it's rush hour at the Masato's house right now. But no, like you said, with their schedule, their 2 best wins are against teams right now that we don't even know what they are. Yeah. Like they have not had a signature win on this schedule yet. They lost the first 3 games to the Patriots, the Titans, and the Giants. Say what you want about early in the season, but all those teams look like they were beatable teams. And at the same time, this Texan team we've seen it before. Like, of course, Watson is a fresh face there, but every year they make the playoffs, and they're just kind of like the first stepping stone for these legitimate contenders. Mm-hmm. I don't really see that changing this year because, again, they're unproven. They haven't really beaten anyone, and they're going to get a rude awakening when they have to face a team like the Chargers in the first round.
See, but the difference is Watson. They were good last year when he was going off, like obviously having a historic season for a rookie. He gets hurt, and then he comes back this year off an ACL injury. They start 0-3. Obviously, he's not going to be the same player right away with an ACL, and especially the type of player he is. He's shifty. He can run. Mm-hmm. So now it seems like he's back at full strength, and they're playing well again. So, I know what you're talking about in the past with the Texans, but he's the best quarterback they've had compared to all those years where they were good.
For sure.
The defense really carried them in those years.
For sure. No, for sure. And he's going to be, of course, he's had a great year. He's still susceptible to the turnover, I think, which in the playoffs will kill you. And he's very unproven in postseason play in big games that matter. So I just think when you're facing against a legitimate team who's been around for a while, be it the Steelers, the Chargers, the Pats, they're going to game plan the right way. They'll be able to keep Watson in check enough. And of course, like I could be proven wrong. Watson has proven me wrong before, but I'm still not ready to stamp this team as a legit threat with the talent in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean,
both ways.
If you think about the road to the Super Bowl, and that's you want to shred that. If you think about the road to the Super Bowl, you're gonna have to win. I mean, they may get that first round bye.
And to that point, they're not going to win out. They have the Browns, the Colts, the Eagles, Jacksonville.
But even if they don't win out, they could.
Jacksonville right now.
Jacksonville.
If they finish 12-4, they still could get that bye, which I think would be huge for them because they wouldn't have to beat 3 teams on the way to the Super Bowl.
That would change everything.
That would change a lot. But
and there's always that like sleeper team, someone always.
Yeah, true.
Who it is this
year. There's that AFC is very top heavy, I guess. Like I said, Patriots, Chiefs, Steelers, Chargers, I think those are all head and shoulders above the Texans in terms of the quality of the team, and they're going to have to beat 2 of those teams no matter which way you cut it. I just don't really see that happening, but who knows? I think this team is good. I just don't think they're that good.
Mm-hmm. All right. I just think
they might be a year away.
Catch them on a good day. You might be the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen.
That's sure. That's true as far as like getting that first upset in the first round, but to do it multiple times in a row against these teams, like you pointed out, it's just too much to ask.
I mean, that was the Jaguars last year.
Nick Foles did it.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Speaking of Nick Foles.
Oh, yes.
Smooth transition there.
Why don't you? That was
We'll hop over to the starting quarterback in Philadelphia now. and we'll ask, or we'll pose the statement: Carson Wentz is a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. Are we stamping this or are we shredding this?
Let's hear it, fantasy.
He is on my fantasy team, but removing that bias, I know he's struggled this season. I guess you could say that. I wouldn't even go that far. I mean, he's having a pretty good season. He has six.
Any other quarterback in the league was having this season, like people would be like, "Wow, he's great. He's doing great."
Yeah, but you have to factor in what you know about the guy, what he's done. He has 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Statistically, he's not doing that. I mean, he had realistically had one bad game. He had the game with 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions
Against the Saints.
Against the Saints, yes. I remember reading somewhere that he's still dealing with that ACL injury. It's still affecting him. It's affecting his mechanics, which could be playing into why he's maybe having a down year, I guess you could call it. But the fact of the matter is, he has no running game to support him, and a running game is really important to a quarterback. I mean, you look around at a lot of the quarterbacks putting up crazy numbers this season, and they have a great running back there who's able to take the load off him.
It's true.
That last game against the Giants, they got the win. You know, the running game showed up. They ran for like 120 something yards, and he didn't have a great day. I mean, he only had 1 touchdown, but he completed most of his passes. He didn't turn the ball over, and they got the win. And I think you can expect a lot more of that from Wentz coming up, given that the running game plays a factor. I still think he's a top tier NFL quarterback. I think once he figures out this whole deal with his leg, he's going to be right back to that midseason of last year form.
So, well, my question is...
You stamping or are you shredding?
I'm stamping this.
My question about Wentz is, like, not even about Wentz, is just this question is, what are we considering, like, top tier? Like, who else is in the top tier?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, I don't want to call Brady, Breeze, all those guys top tier. They're on another level than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we shouldn't, like, it's unfair to compare these young stud quarterbacks to these Hall of Fame legends.
That's
so you
fair.
put Brady, Breeze, Roethlisberger, Rivers, those guys.
All right, so
Rodgers. They're in their own thing.
Roethlisberger, I don't know if he's in there. Fuck him.
You know what he's done. So
He's
then
not top tier right now. That's for
So
sure.
then you
All
have
those other guys are
obviously
still
we have
top
guys
tier.
like Matt Ryan. If you want to say Stafford, maybe I think Wentz,
Mahomes,
Goff,
Wilson,
Mahomes.
Cam.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot all those guys. Yeah, I mean, I think he leans more into the Wilson, Goff, Cam area than the like Matt Ryan, Stafford, those kind of inconsistent. I mean, I'm only going off of the 1 year, but what he showed in that 1 year, I feel like it's stuff that's not taught. Like he showed he has the instincts already. He showed great pocket presence. He can move. He can run. And obviously, like you said, an ACL is gonna take a lot of that away from you. Especially, it could not even be physical. It could be mental. Mm-hmm. He could it's kind of like Kawhi. Like he might not think he can like get it done properly because he just doesn't feel in his mind that he's like the same player. And if that is the case, that it is still bothering him, he shouldn't be playing. Why would they rush him back? They just won the Super Bowl. Why don't you just wait 100% until he's fine? I don't see any. He's in his third year.
Mm-hmm.
And you just won the Super Bowl. You didn't even have him, but he's your prized possession. You're gonna rush him back to try and get another one. Like make sure he's okay.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pressure over there in Philly. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl. They're definitely not happy with the way the team's been playing so far.
Not.
And Wentz has been playing. But that being said, it's a quick turnaround. I mean, he tore his ACL late last season.
Yeah.
So he came back week 4 this year?
3.
Week 3 this year. So it's not crazy to think that it's still affecting him. I mean, most people sit out a full year for the torn ACL. I mean, that's the standard recovery time.
I feel like people want to kind of compare it to Derek Carr, like having that crazy year, broke his leg, comes back. Like, what the hell happened? But I feel like Wentz showed way more skill and potential than Carr did in that year. Just like he was making plays almost on his own. Like he was making throws that most quarterbacks can't make. He was evading pressure, doing all that. Like it was like magic. I remember it was a whole thing last season. Like, oh, Wentz is magic, this and that.
He's great at evading pressure.
Yeah, so
and,
like it's I don't think it's that type of situation where like he had that like crazy year. He was young and like everyone's like, oh, he's the next big thing. I think he showed more than that, and I do still think he's a top tier quarterback. I think once Alshon Jeffrey is not the number one receiver anymore, and they have a playmaker in the backfield and in the receiving core, maybe we'll see that Carson Wentz of old.
You're stamping?
Yeah, I'm stamping.
Okay. You mentioned top tier. It's obviously a vague term. You know, it's definitely up for discussion about how you define top tier. But we mentioned a list of a bunch of guys. You said he's more towards Goff, Wilson, Cam instead of Ryan, Stafford. Who else? I don't even know who else would be in that class. But
yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
But or like Watson or something. Yeah. I think he is more of a Matt Ryan, of a Matt Stafford, than he is a Jared Goff, for example.
1 second.
Thanks, babe. And that's not. I'm not trying to like knock on Wentz. He's clearly a very, very good quarterback. I think he's their franchise for the next 10+ years. No one is doubting that. He's got some work to do though, and I think, injury aside, what I've seen from watching him is that they're losing a lot of close games. They've lost 2-point games, they've lost 3-point games, they've lost 5-point games. That's where most of their losses are coming from. And he's had the ball at the end of those games a couple times that I've seen. It seems like he's just missing something that a lot of these other quarterbacks have, kind of just like getting it done. Like when things are going south, I don't see him like stepping up and really making that difference. Of course, you want to say coming off the injury, you talk about a lack of weapons. We've had this conversation before. I think there's plenty of weapons on that offense for him to succeed in. Jeffrey, Tate, Ertz, and Goddard, that's more than enough. It's good. It's not like a problem.
I just think when you compare him to like a guy like Goff, like you're saying he's on that level. Goff's done it for 2 years now. Wentz did it last year, and Wentz had just as great of a season as Goff's ever had, obviously. They're both so young, and he did it with so much less. It was like he made it happen almost.
And you know, it's Sorry.
No,
go on.
Like, I think Goff is great, but he has Sean McVay. They only got Cooks this year, but they still had Woods, Watkins. They have Todd Gurley, the best running back in the NFL. Like, so many great electrifying weapons.
I think Goff is just more accurate than Wentz. I think that's what he has over him right now. Weapons help that for sure, but it's not like Goff is throwing to the best receivers in the league. Woods and Cooks, they're good pieces. They don't have a tight end. They're good pieces, but like Goff's getting it done. Obviously Gurley is a huge help for him. But Goff he's impressed me last year. He took another step forward this year. He just seems like and a lot of people thought the conversation was over with Wentz and Goff after the first year because Goff looked terrible.
Of course.
But I think Goff has proven that like right now he's a step above Wentz. Injuries aside.
You know, in addition to what Richard said, it's not only the weapons. We've had this conversation before. You can do better than the Eagles' weapons for sure, but they're fairly average, and if he's a great quarterback, he should be able to make it work with them. But I think the system plays a big part in it. You know, the Eagles they play like an old school offense. They have a big receiver as their number one. He's not a shifty guy. He's not really a clean route runner. You know, he's a big guy that's going to go up and get those jump balls. They don't play that West Coast offense with a ton of movement, a ton of speedy guys that's really taking over the NFL, and that's the offense that you find Mahomes in. You know, that's the offense that you find Goff in. That's not really the offense that you find Wentz in. He really has a lot of pressure to make it work for himself, and I think he's doing the best he can. I mean, we've been talking about the injury a lot, but I think with that injury in mind, and coupled that with the system thing, that kind of old school offense, that non-West Coast offense, it's a lot of pressure on him to just sit in that pocket and make good throws. And, you know, you can do better than those weapons. You know, I don't think they're the worst in the league.
You can do worse, yeah.
You can definitely do worse, but
it's not to the point where it's an excuse for not winning.
I think that's true. But I do think you have to keep in mind that injury. That injury is still bugging him.
Are you shredding?
I'm shredding. And
And-
not because he's not good. I just think with the injury, we haven't seen enough of him to really put him in that tier yet.
All right.
Let's
Understandable.
take it easy there.
I just want to throw in one thing. It's on it, like what you said about the whole old school offense. Like, I agree with you, and it's honestly surprising after seeing Peterson. After seeing Doug Peterson call plays in the Super Bowl, he was calling a great game in the NFC in all of the playoffs. Like, it looked like he was like coming up with crazy designs and plays, and it seemed like he was like a modern offensive mind. But maybe, I don't know.
Now people are calling for his head because
Yeah.
he's too conservative. It's really surprising.
Yeah,
what's going
exactly.
on
That's crazy. Conservative. I never would have thought that after the Super Bowl. Whatever.
Philly, yo.
Yeah.
They ran
there.
it.
Philly special.
Let's move on.
Cornfield really going to message the group chat when we're all on the podcast?
Yeah, right. All right, next one. Alex, you wanna say this one?
Did we change this one, or
Nah,
what's the
you
deal
know
with
what?
this one?
Why don't you
Alright.
go ahead? Alex gets his way.
Okay, here we go. After last night's disappointing performance by 99% of the team, are the Houston Rockets at risk of missing the playoffs this season? Who wants to start this one?
Okay.
I'll start this one because first of all, and I know we talked about this and I didn't print out a replacement, so I'm not going to go crazy on it. But to even talk about missing the playoffs in November is obviously a reach. I think we can all agree on that.
And the West is so close right now.
The West is so close. Right now they're sitting in 9th place, but they're 4 games out of the 1 seed. The point is the Houston Rockets do not look good right now. They don't look like the team that most people thought they would be. They don't look like the team that they were last season. To that point, though, I have to shred this because they're not at risk of missing the playoffs. However, they are at risk of being middle of the road in the Western Conference. But at the end of the
Which
day,
you might as well miss the playoffs at that point.
yeah, that's not a place you want to be looking at the Warriors in the second round. But at the end of the day, I can still see them, at the end of the season, like they're going to be where most of us think they should have been, 2, 3, 4. I think there's too much talent on the roster with Paul, with Harden, and Capella. That's a great big three to space the floor and kind of just do a little bit of everything. Obviously, Capella's a great defender. He's got over 2 blocks a game. They lost key contributors on defense with Mbah Moute and Trevor Ariza.
Something you guys ripped on me for saying that would hurt them.
You were right there, and obviously putting Melo in as that replacement did not work out. But they have plenty of time to get the ship right. The talent is there. Aside from those 2 losses, it's pretty much the same team it was last year. And I think at the end of the day, Houston will be one of the teams in the top of the Western Conference, just like they were last year, until Harden blows it once again in the postseason. But no, the Rockets will get it together. I'm gonna shred this.
If we're talking this statement, are they at risk of missing the playoffs? I'm gonna shred it. But excuse me.
Crumble this one up a little.
All right, take your time.
I was getting a little fidgety.
Yeah, if we're talking missing the playoffs, I would shred it. But if I think they should be concerned about going anywhere in the playoffs. At this point, can you even expect Chris Paul to be healthy for you at the end of the season? He was never healthy in the playoffs for the Clippers. He wasn't healthy in the playoffs last year. He's not healthy right now, I'm pretty sure.
He didn't play last night.
Exactly. Like you said, Ariza and Mbah Moute gone. They already weren't even great on defense, the team, because Mike D'Antoni's the head coach. He doesn't even care. So they're even worse. Their offense doesn't look as explosive and fluid as it was last year. And, I mean, Harden and Gordon just combined for 80 points, and they lost.
To the Wizards.
To the Wizards, who are the most dysfunctional team.
They're picking it up, though, Washington.
Yeah, they are.
They're
But they've had a lot of drama.
In the East.
But if 2 of your I'm assuming Gordon was starting since Paul was out. If your 2 starting guards are combining for 80 points, you can't lose. You cannot lose that game.
The Rockets are not 9th in the West. They're 13th. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. lost a lot of credibility.
I
People probably
apologize.
turned it off already at this point.
But hey, people
after
make
you saying that.
mistakes. As long as we correct them, I think we're on top of it.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a historic game for that combination of
Of
guards.
point- Yeah, the next, I think the highest is Kobe and Smush Parker, but Kobe dropped 81. Smush Parker at 13. So
You got 13 in there.
yeah, but the second highest combined scoring for a backcourt, and you don't win the game. I mean, come on. And Mike D'Antoni coach teams have never succeeded in the playoffs. James Harden has not shown he has that clutch fire gene in the playoffs. They're not as good. They're not great defensively. Paul, you can't trust to stay healthy. I don't think Capella, he's good for what they do, but he's not that much of a difference maker, really. Like,
He's averaging 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks.
he's just
That's
like
what you need from a
no, that's what
center.
you need. But he's their third star.
No,
He's like a
not
JaVale
star.
McGee kind of player. Like, throw him a lob and he'll get blocks, but he's not doing much outside of that. You need.
I'm
need
pretty
more
sure
than that.
he's a top end defender though.
No,
Aside
of
from
course,
just the
blocks.
blocks.
But you need more than. He's short too, like 6'9".
Look, I think this team is in serious trouble.
What are you doing? We keep forgetting.
I'm gonna just do this. Shred the statement because I don't think
Shred
they're.
the statement. So Richard thinks they are not at risk of missing the playoffs, and clearly that's not really what we've been talking about. So whatever. This team is in serious trouble, I think. We talk about their star power. I mean, they have three, maybe four seriously great players. I mean, if you call Capella a great player, maybe he's a very good big man. They have Gordon, they have Harden, they have Paul. But outside of that, what does this team have? They have Ennis, James Ennis the third, playing big minutes right now. They have, can you even trust? Like Richard said, can you trust Paul to be there? If we had to guess right now, we would say he probably won't be. So this team has no depth right now.
I think they're easing Paul along. I don't think it's something that they're that seriously worried about.
Even with Paul playing big minutes, this team has no depth, and you need depth to go far in the playoffs. Who knows? I mean, some of these players are going to go down inevitably. I mean, they have who is this? House playing 28 minutes last night? Who is that?
Eddie?
No, not Eddie House.
They'd honestly want Eddie House.
I mean,
over that
PJ
guy.
Tucker is probably the 5th best player on this team. I mean, you could do worse than that, I guess. He's
The LeBron
okay.
stopper.
Decent defender.
Hey, he's all right, but
LeBron doesn't want to see him in the second round.
I don't know. I just remembered that was a thing.
to me, this team looks like a first-round exit.
Well, what teams in the West are better than them? Ultimately, actually are going to finish higher than them. That you really believe that? You think because we talked a lot about the Clippers, Nuggets, and Grizzlies, and no one really bought into them. Are they finishing ahead of the Rockets, who returned a lot of the same guys from the best team in the league last year?
I think the Warriors are better.
Okay,
I personally think the Lakers are better.
so that's
obviously.
3.
I think
No one else with certainty you can say is going to end up higher than the Rockets.
Not certain. Portland could end up higher. I mean, they might not be that much of a factor in the playoffs, but they're always good in the regular season. They could end up higher.
I would take Houston. over
Maybe
Portland
I might.
in a series.
What we were talking about last week with those teams, I don't really think they're legit. But teams finish with great records all the time and do nothing. Remember the Hawks a few years ago?
Right.
with
So
the
then
number
to
one
say
seed in the East,
first round exit, who's knocking them out? Portland.
possibly. It depends who they get. If they're not a high seed, they could end
Again,
up.
OKC.
It's early.
Yeah, okay.
It's,
I think OKC is better than them. They're playing really well.
it's early in the season. I mean, there are some teams that started out hot. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. And there are some teams that started slow. And I mean, we could see the Pelicans turning it around. No,
Yeah, it's possible. I don't trust them. I don't like them.
trust them one
They
bit.
swept the Trailblazers last year. I mean,
It's more of a testament.
What
to
do we
the
think about the
Trailblazers.
Spurs?
Yeah.
We don't think the Spurs are a factor at all.
No, I think they're a factor.
All these teams are they're legit teams. They're good teams, but I'm relying too much on the Rockets of last year. But
They're definitely not the same
believe in
team.
I believe in Harden and Chris Paul to do enough to like put them
We'll
in a
see.
good position going
We'll
into
see.
the playoffs.
I think the thing that's
I
gonna.
don't want to just overreact on a 9-10 start.
I'm reacting to the roster though. There's no one on this team besides Chris Paul, James Harden, Gordon, and Capella.
Yeah.
They have no bench. Their fans are begging for Brandon Knight to get healthy.
That guy.
X factor.
Good player.
Okay, but who's on the Trailblazers
that
bench?
was
Who's on
Brandon
the
Jennings.
Grizzlies bench? Who's on the Clippers bench?
They look better so far, whoever it is.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I think
We'll see.
slow starts. It's not like it doesn't happen. This team has a good pedigree. I
I think this team needs to make a move.
they probably
should-
will too.
yeah.
And
They
didn't want to
should've
get into
jumped
that
on
because
Butler, honestly.
they offered
They didn't
4
have-
first-round picks.
They didn't have the. They didn't
They
have
don't
the.
have
like-
anyone to trade for.
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't have the players.
No, that's
to trade.
true. That's true. And that's why I didn't want to mention mid-season additions and stuff because that's going into like a whole different thing. As the
Changes
roster's currently
everything.
constituted,
If we're gonna,
I think that ultimately they'll be fine. We're
Alright.
19 games into the season. Again, they're 4 games out of first. They get hot. They win
Yeah,
4 in a
it's
row
true, it's
against bad teams. They're right into 3rd place.
All right. So we got 2 shreds on that and 1 stamp. Let's move on here.
I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs, but I think at risk is a fair assessment.
All right. So are we?
Doing some
We getting the callers coming in? Who's first?
So we're going on to our next segment here. We're gonna have a few callers, and our first caller is my friend Cooper. Wants to talk about the Jets. So let's get him on the line.
Wow, what a don.
Good guy, Coop.
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, what's going on, Coop?
What's up, man?
You're live.
You're live on the Memo.
Oh, wow, what an honor. How we doing, Rodg? How we doing, Brodsky?
What's up,
We're doing
man?
all right. We're doing all right.
What do you want to talk about today, Coop?
You know what I want to talk about, man. I want to talk about the JETS, the fucking green fungus that doesn't leave me.
What you want to praise them? You want to shit on them? What's on your mind today?
Well, we got a couple of things I could talk to. First things first, I got a couple of people for the scrap heap that I wanted to throw in, if that's allowed.
Oh, of course. We would love
Scrap
to
'em
add to the
all.
scrap heap.
Yeah, you could scrap him.
All right. First things first. Not even Todd Bowles. That one's too easy. Jeremy Bates gotta go into the scrap heap. Okay, the guy, he has Quincy Enunwa. He's a beast. He's a 250-pound Nebraskan beast.
The monster.
And they
Yeah.
and they just throw him screen passes all day. He can catch the ball down the field. Put him on a fucking button route. He can catch the ball.
You don't like
doesn't
you
do
don't like the run screen pass punt
No,
offense?
Not we're the Rockettes, dude. It's 1, 2, 3 kick every single
Yeah.
time. Just punt the ball.
That's a good one. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. You got someone else scrapping?
You said you had multiple. Let's hear
Oh
'em.
yeah, I mean that's one. 2, Tremaine Johnson is just a waste of time and money. The fact that we gave this guy a $20 million signing bonus and then we pay him $15 million a year to sit on the bench and play with his corn rolls is it's why we're the laughing stock of the league. It's like it just wraps it up in like one thing. I went to the game 3 weeks ago and I just see him chilling on the bench. He's not even high-fiving people. He's just like, yeah, I got paid. Like that's it. Like he's waiting for the off season to go and chill. He's done. Absolutely done.
Seems
And
pretty.
then third, I hate to do it. Was my favorite player. Masados knows this. James Carpenter in the scrap. the guy can't block anymore. It's like someone forgot how to walk. It's like a bike. Like you think you could just do it. The guy can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
he just doesn't have it.
He was one of our better players last year.
Yeah. Now he's not.
All right, so Coop, let me ask you a question. What do you think we should do to get us back to the name it days?
The name it is, dude. I'll take the Chad Pennington days. I just want to be like going into the season being like we can maybe get a wild card. But I got a foolproof plan for you guys right here. If you give me a couple minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
But first, before you do that, let me James Carpenter. Before the season, I was reading a lot about how, and this can go back to your other scrap heap, Jeremy Bates. Jeremy Bates runs a West Coast offense, I believe, with a zone blocking scheme. And it's been known in the past that James Carpenter has struggled with the zone blocking scheme. He's much better in a power blocking scheme because he's a big guy, a strong guy, but he's not too athletic side to side. So that goes back to Jeremy Bates just not utilizing his players correctly, like Quincy Enunwa, like James Carpenter, like Robbie Anderson. If you're trying to force guys into these roles that they're not good at, you're bound to fail. That's really it. Sorry, just wanted to throw that in.
You should coach the team. You do a better job.
Probably. All right, let's hear this plan for the Jets to be Super Bowl champions by 2020.
All right, so we'll finish the season. What would be the worst way to do it? Probably go 2-3, so we don't get the first pick, end up around 6. Fine. I'll start from that scenario. Go into the off season. If Todd Bowles is not fired already, you fire Todd Bowles.
Of course.
Part 1B. You hire an offensive-minded head coach for once. Don't hire John Harbaugh. Don't hire Jim Harbaugh. I don't want any defensive mind. The NFL has changed. It's not a defensive league anymore. We're not going to win that way. I want John DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator from Minnesota. Give me anybody. Give me any of these college coaches that are doing read options. That's what we need. We need an offensive-minded head coach to revert all the damage that Jeremy Bates and Todd Bowles have done to Sam Darnold in his first year. That's fine.
I agree with that.
We got to re-sign the players, the decent players that we have. That's Leo. Give him his money. He deserves it. He shows up. I know people hate on him this year. It's because he's getting triple teams. Like the guy, he has effort. Give Enunwa his money. Give Robbie Anderson his money. He's not going to ask for that much. It's going to be $3 million a year. Put it down. 4. McCown is no longer the backup quarterback. McCown could be a quarterback coach. He can be an assistant, kind of hang around the team like Pennington does. He's not playing for me anymore. I'm sorry. I like the guy. He's not my quarterback. 5. You're cutting Spencer Long. This guy is a liability. I know his contract's not that bad. I know that they just signed him, and if you really look at the Pro Football Focus, whatever, he's an average. I don't care. I look at his face. I don't like the guy. I want him out of the locker room. All right. Then you're going to get to free agency. You're going to sign Le'Veon Bell. You're going to sign an outside linebacker, whether it's DeMarcus Lawrence, Anza, Fowler, and you're going to sign a quarterback, whether it be taking back Claiborne, fine, signing Ronald Darby, somebody who's out there who could play. Then lastly, you're going to go into the draft with your 6th overall pick. Again. You're going to take the 6th pick. You're going to trade back with the Bucks so they can replace whoever they want to put in Jameis' spot. And then you're going to have a 2nd-round pick, and you're going to take 2 offensive players with the 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick. Then you can go 6-10, and then I could have confidence.
Wow. That sounds like a good plan to me.
It does. I actually just stumbled across Mike McCagnon's email. I might send him this little snippet, tell him to take some notes. No, I'm.
That's
sorry, I went off. What do you guys?
No, I love it.
That was fantastic, and we thank you for calling. We're gonna hang up on you, but we thank you. We thank you a lot for your time, Coop. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing it live.
All right. Good luck at work.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, so before we get into dissecting what he had to say, and you guys obviously know a lot more about the Jets' future than I do, talking about scrap heaps, can I scrap heap Quincy Enunwa with this fucking guy already? Oh, dude, he's been in the league for how long? 5 years? How many different offensive coordinators have they had? Multiple, right? It's not just Bates' fault.
He's been good for them.
Dude, he's had 100 yards once in his career.
He's been hurt.
Oh, my God. Okay, so he's nothing. If
Watch
he wasn't on the
play.
Jets, he would
Watch
be
the guy play.
irrelevant.
Watch the guy play.
When they get him the
I
ball.
watch the Jets, dude. Oh, my God. Everyone
you
thinks
do
that
not.
Enunwa is this top receiver just
If
waiting.
he was
Jets
on
fans.
any other team,
Oh
he'd
my God.
be putting up numbers.
Oh, my God.
I'm not saying he'd be the best wide receiver in the league.
What-
But he'd be
Can he
perfectly
do something
serviceable.
before we act like
What
he's
receiver
this
on the Jets puts
weapon
up good
waiting
numbers?
to explode?
He's had a good season before, and he was doing well this year before he got hurt.
Gosh, dude, he has been the most average, just receiver in the
who's
league.
throwing
just
him
a
the ball?
guy on
Josh
the team.
McCown.
Okay, so what then? So what do you have to go off of? He's big. He's
makes
tall.
plays.
He makes so many plays when he's healthy.
He
I
averages,
understand
what,
injury.
55 yards a game. You get 3 catches here. He'll catch a touchdown once every 4 weeks.
You could do worse than
Oh my
55
gosh.
yards a
He
game.
He could do
Jet-
worse than
Jet fans
55
think
yards a
he's
game
the
with who
second
they're
coming.
trotting out on the field. His best season was when Ryan Fitzpatrick wasn't good, not the good year. The year he was bad.
I think Cooper's point was that he is one of the more talented players on the offense. Get him the fucking ball. Don't run screen passes to him. Get him the ball in space. You run a West Coast. Figure it out, Jeremy Bates. You don't.
What about all the other years he was on the team besides last season?
He didn't have an
he was hurt.
opportunity to play.
He's had good games.
Okay, so
When
he's
he was
an
a rookie-
injury-riddled
when he was-
receiver who has never done a single thing in the league.
He's gonna come cheap, and they should re-sign
When
him.
he was a rookie, he
Go
was
ahead,
like 7th
re-sign
on the
the
depth
mediocre.
chart. He didn't play. He was like a 7th-round pick.
Okay, so let's call it what he is. He's a 7th-round receiver.
He's a good player when they
gonna
get him
prove
the
you
ball.
wrong.
Dude,
I've
much
been
of
waiting.
so much of
I'm
football
begging
is
him to prove me
so much
wrong.
of football is getting your players in the right position to succeed. It's not just
Get
throw.
yourself in the position to succeed.
What do you want him to do?
Get
They're
open
calling
on
these
the
plays,
field.
He's on
these
the Jets, dude. If
absurd
anybody
plays
has an
that don't make
excuse,
any
it's him.
sense. They're running 5 receivers
the
on a button hook.
excuses. I'm sick
There's
of
no
the
excuses.
He's on the
He's
fucking
injured. He's a
Jets.
7th-round pick. He's on the Jets. Jeremy Bates. He's been on the team for 5 years, and he has one 100-yard game.
Okay, you sound like Cornfield.
What's
right
that?
now.
Does that not
Yeah,
matter?
just
to
look
you?
at his stat.
Kawhi
Go
only
watch
has
him play.
40-point game, so he's
What am I
bad, right?
watching?
You
You'll
would argue
see
against
when he
that,
gets
right?
the ball
What?
and they actually.
Kawhi's career high is 8 assists, and he's a bad player.
Okay, assists for a small forward is the same as yards for a receiver?
Dude, it's the situation
on.
that he's
It's
in.
watch the game, watch the play calls when they actually took advantage of his skill set.
We watch
when he was in his
together every week.
You
watch-
don't
care
you
about
watch
the
Red
Jets.
Zone.
But we're watching the same thing.
You watch Red
you watch
Zone
the
from 1 to
quarterbacks
4.
not able to throw the ball and the offensive line not block
You watch
long
Red
enough
Z-
for anything to happen.
You watch Red Zone from 1 to 4, then you watch the Chargers from 4 to 7. No,
Exactly.
so
How-
you
but I'm
watch
doing it with
Anunua
you
when
guys.
they're in the red zone, which is
But-
never.
But I'm doing it with you guys. How much more of a Nunwa is he?
I-
What is
you
he
watch it
doing
with
when
me.
he's
When
not
was
on
the last
the
time you
TV?
watched football with me, Matt?
Well, 2 weeks ago.
No.
Probably 2 weeks ago. The
No.
Jets were on a
I've-
bye
I've
one of the
worked
weeks we
past
didn't
4
watch.
Sundays,
Okay, you've been at my house for football how many times
like a few times.
in
Alex
your life?
never there.
I watched the Jets.
Okay.
Anunwa's
You've
a
seen
good
more Jets
player.
than me. Okay, for sure.
When
What is he going off when he's not on TV?
either his second or third year in the league, when Chan Gailey was the offensive coordinator and he had his great year, they utilized him in the way you're supposed to. Like, they put him in a position to succeed. This year, he's clearly everyone is playing poorly due to the offensive play calling. Look at Robbie Anderson last year. The offensive coordinator was literally fired because Todd Bowles said he featured Robbie Anderson too much because he knew how to take advantage of his skill set. No one's skill set is being taken advantage of on the Jets. And those who apparently could do it are being fired by Todd Bowles because he wants to run the ball. He's good. He's a good player. Did you watch him against the Dolphins? Did you watch him earlier in the season, what he was doing? Dude, you
What
get
he
him the
did.
ball in space, and he's carrying cornerbacks. He can run. He's
very
physical.
fast,
He
very
can run.
strong.
He's fast.
He's
You
a
can't
big
just throw him
receiver.
a screen every play and say go.
Eventually, you gotta have production to back up these.
What?
accolades
They're not
that
getting
you think he
production from
has.
anywhere.
Well,
So
they-
he's got to do everything now?
when you're
the
praising him
offense-
like he's the best
Spence-
receiver in the
No
league.
one
saying
thinks
that?
he's the
Who's
best. He just
saying
said
that?
sign him back. Get him back on cheap deals.
This isn't the first we've heard of Quincy and Nunwa.
Call your friend. Shut up.
Go ahead with the Jets. What else?
What else do we got to say? What do you want to?
Let's get something else going.
Yeah,
on
you
here.
know, I agree with him. They should, in the draft, trading down, not a bad idea. It's get that second round pick back.
Yeah, no,
Stock up
address
on
what he said.
offensive linemen. Find a pass rusher. Either you got to do one or the other. If you can't get a pass rusher in free agency, stock up on the O line if you can, and then go pass rusher in the draft. They got it. Those are the two positions they need. They need to improve, or they're never going to be good. Those are the D line and the O line. It starts in the trenches. Everyone says that's where they have to improve first before they think about going out and getting Le'Veon Bell, getting a great receiver.
Yeah,
They
what
can
do you-
get by, right? If they improve the O-line, they can get by. They can be a decent offense, and getting an elite pass rusher puts that defense over the top. And I think the offense, if you improve the O-line, can be good enough to possibly get a wild card, like you said.
More important than be good enough, Sam Darnold needs to regress. That needs to be
Progress?
progress.
Yeah, I thought you said regress.
That needs to be the
Yeah.
priority of this organization. He's the franchise quarterback. You need to do whatever it takes to make sure he becomes as good as possible. And then if he doesn't do that, then you can think about other options. Maybe he's a bust. But we're not at that point yet. You need to
Throwing bust around. Oh.
I'm saying you need to put the guy in a position to succeed. He won't be able to progress as a quarterback if has a injured terrible offensive line and no weapons.
And that goes for
you won't be good.
That goes
whoever
for
you are.
everyone on the team. Everyone on the offense, at least, needs to be put in a position to succeed by someone who understands how the modern NFL works.
I like DeFilippo.
Yeah, we'll see. All right.
All right, we're going to go to our second caller of the day now, my friend Rafa. Is ready to talk some Knicks. Rafa, are you with us?
I'm with you.
All righty, man. Let's hear it. What do you have to
What's
say?
going on?
You are live.
Did you ask the question already?
No,
I don't have much context here.
We don't know the question. Are you calling in with a question?
Oh, I'm calling in with a question. Let me pull it up.
Let's-
I worded it so eloquently yesterday.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm a big fan of the show, guys. Congratulations on getting Nate Silver light over here at Brodsky with all these stats. It's unbelievable week after week.
Oh, come on.
Apparently, if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, you don't lose games.
All right.
Amazing stuff.
We appreciate the
All right,
love.
let me pull it up.
I like that one.
All right, so the question is, with an eye on free agency, Kemba, Kyrie, KD, should the Knicks be focused on putting themselves in a position to draft one of the Duke Big Three, or focus on building a winning culture and sneaking into the playoffs as a 7 or an 8?
Okay. All right. That's an interesting question. There's a lot of pieces to dissect there. What I'll say to that, I'll kick it off. I'll say sneaking into the playoffs as a 7 or an 8 seed, of course, that sounds great. That's what you want a fan base to strive for, right? That's you don't want to root for your team to lose.
As Knicks fans, we strive for 8 seeds.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true, yeah. As a Knicks fan, you can only get so excited from recent history. But to that point, like what I said about you want to get as high up as possible, because it's just your nature to win basketball games. I do think the Knicks would be doing themselves a disservice to win games and try to go for a playoff seed. I know, Rafa, we had spoken in the past, you're big on, the chemistry, getting these wins, learning how to win as a team. But ultimately, what are you getting? You're going to lose. You're going to get swept in the first round by the Raptors or the Celtics, and you're going to be sitting in the middle of the lottery with the same team that you had at the beginning of the season, and who really knows? You're not attracting free agents by being a middle-of-the-road team. What I want to see the Knicks do is play hard, develop some young players, but ultimately, and whether they're trying to or not, the team is what it is. They're not going to make the 7 or 8 seed. So the best case scenario would be to lose as much as games as possible, get one of those top 3 guys, and really use one of them as an attractive piece for free agency. What do you guys think?
I mean, I see your point, but I just don't see. I mean, the Knicks have been a joke for so long. I don't see the value in striving to lose. I don't think this team is good enough to get to a 7 or 8 seed, so I think it may just happen anyway, even if they try to win as many games as possible and try to build that chemistry, they may end up with one of those top 3 picks, and I wouldn't say I hope that happened, but it would be nice. I think this organization is in need of a very big culture change, and I think that starts with Fizdale, and I think you can start that. I think you could start to see that this season. It looks like the team is playing hard, bunch of young guys trying to figure out how to win, trying to figure out the chemistry thing. These young guys look pretty promising. I like that, and I would like to see this team win as many games as possible. But ultimately, I don't think they're going to sneak into the playoffs, and at that point, I hope they get as high a pick as possible. But I do want to see this team trying to compete every single night. I do want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think there, Ralph?
Well, I think with the NBA draft, it's a lot more complicated than the NFL, right? The NFL, depending on your record, you can sneak in and get a top 3 pick. With the NBA, you can try to tank. There's a lot of terrible teams out there. You can end up with one of the worst 3 losing records in the league, but you can end up So, it's not the strategy to tank is not really you're banking on luck going your way, and I don't think that's the smartest thing, especially with this franchise that doesn't have a lot of luck on their side anyway. Bottom line is this is probably the most pivotal free agency for the Knicks in a long, long time. They have $37 million in cap space right now. They can move Courtney Lee to free up a little bit more. That puts them in competition with Sixers, Clippers, Lakers, Brooklyn, Pacers, and the Mavs. All those teams can sign a max player, right? So you have to be more attractive than all those places. There's a lot of those teams that are already playoff bound and even competing for conference championships. So I think when you're trying to be an attractive place to play, which is exactly what the rhetoric that they've been saying, it's why they hired a players coach in Fizdale. When you're trying to be in an attractive place to play, I think it comes down to that culture of winning. Can these young guys compete? And if I'm a free agent like a Kyrie or if I'm a free agent like KD, I don't want to watch this team get blown out, right? For the chance to get a Zion Williamson, yeah, that's exciting. But again, that's what it is. It's a chance. There's a lot of shitty teams in the NBA right now, and I wouldn't leave it up to tanking. I think it's much more difficult in the NBA. You might lose in the first round. No one likes a first round exit, but for me as a free agent, it's much more attractive to see a young team that plays hard, that can get some of that, late stage, late game experience. And for me, I think that's the way to go. Continue to play hard, week in, week out, and try to get into the playoffs.
I agree with you. I agree with him. I just don't see the benefit, especially with how young the team is, the Knicks. You got to teach these kids to win. You can't and also us as fans, it's so easy for us to say should they be losing or should they be winning? They want to win. These players are never ever ever trying to lose. There are guys in this team, I mean, it's their jobs. There are guys in this team, they might be on 1 year deals. They're I got to play my hardest. I got to get my next deal. Nobody in the NBA or any sport is trying to lose games. I don't think they're not talented enough to really make an 8th seed. I know they're on a little – they just lost tonight, but they went on a little nice 3-game win streak. I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs. But I also think they have a lot of young talent. If they miss out on a top pick in the lottery, you still have Knox, you still have Porzingis, you still have Robinson. Frank has not looked too – he's been a great defender. His offense leaves so much to be desired, obviously. But they have a lot of young players. And I didn't want to bring this team up, this podcast, but I have to compare it to the Lakers because this team last year,
the nerve.
This team last year, obviously, I've been dying, and now I have a chance to because obviously LeBron James saw this team of young players plays hard. They got to 35 wins. They played hard every game. They're about that. They're about working. They're about grinding. They're about all that stuff. And it's exactly what you just this is why I brought it up because it's exactly what you just said. These stars coming into free agency, that's the type of situation they want to go into. They want, especially if they're gonna risk it all and go for the Knicks, they want to make sure they're getting into a good situation.
Yeah.
So
and 1 second, Rafa, before we let you go here, I just want to point out the something that you said that I totally agree with. You talked about a lot of bad teams in the NBA. Even if they are trying to be even if they are going to lose out a lot of games, you're right though. They're not as bad as some of these teams. So they're not going to be it's hard to get a top 1, 2, 3 pick.
Yeah.
And then if you miss out on those guys, you're kind of just you kind of wish that you could have done more during the season. So there are a bunch of shitty teams out there that are going to be down at the bottom of the lottery. So I can understand putting your all into every game and trying to win. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
No, I mean, I'd agree with all that. And, just looking at some of the draft experts, they're calling this class after the big three and after a couple other guys, one of the weakest they've seen. So if you don't get into that lottery, there's not a lot of talent there. So free agency is definitely going to be big for the Knicks this year.
Yeah, I was someone who has said I think KD will consider the Knicks. Mm-hmm. I really do.
A lot of people saying that.
That's what we'll shift to now, the free agency for the Knicks. Rafa, thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to make sure you tune in. So we're going to talk about free agency right now after we let you go. But we love you. We appreciate it. And we'll speak to you soon. All right, man?
Thanks for tuning. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
All righty. We'll speak to you soon.
And before we talk about free agency, I just want to go off that what conversation we were just having. the culture is so important.
Yeah.
You know, and it's why it's part of the reason why you've seen the Knicks miss out on so many of these free agents over the past few years. You can just feel it at MSG. Nobody cares. The fans don't care. The players don't care. Ownership doesn't care. Front office doesn't care. And for the most part of the last few years, the coaching staff didn't care unless it was their job on the line. And that's what I like a lot about Fizdale is he's renovating that culture.
Yeah.
You know, especially with all these young guys, they're impressionable. They go out every night and they play hard. And I really like to see that, and I think that this free agent class, that's going to be something they look to too.
Yep. And it's the New York Knicks.
A lot of these guys know Fizdale, and you know, they're big fans of him. I would not be surprised to see the Knicks make a big splash in free agency.
Do we really think KD is realistic?
I do. I do.
All right. He may not
Put
be
yourself in his
that
shoes.
realistic. If I was in his shoes, what I'm thinking is, if I want people to stop calling me a snake and saying I took the easy way out, and he definitely wants that. I talked about it last week how sensitive this guy is. If he wants to save his legacy and be looked at as not everything I just said, you got to go to the Knicks.
Going to New York and winning will everybody will forget about.
And does he really care though? He knew it was going to happen when he went to the Warriors. They would call him a snake.
He wanted his rings.
He knew it was going to happen.
Touch on that a little bit. I don't like this whole thing Knicks fans like to say, like, oh, accept the challenge, come play in New York. Like they don't owe you anything. This challenge, this bullshit that everyone's like, he's scared to take the challenge of New York. No, the organization sucks.
Yeah.
They're just
no one
like
wants
any
to play
other
there.
team in the league.
Exactly. Everyone's got to.
There's more opportunity for a player.
Enough with that. Enough with this challenge. But I do think, for his legacy's sake, if he went to New York and they would be a 1 to 2 seed in the East every year. If he wants, you don't think so?
Just KD.
KD, you gotta hope Porzingis comes back 100%. I think if he's your number 2 with Durant,
I think they'd be definitely a playoff team, but
they'll get someone else maybe, but not another. I don't think they'll get 2 super. Someone can come with KD. I don't know.
I don't know if just adding KD to this team just brings them to a 1 or 2 seed
in the East. Maybe
they're pretty bad. They're
Let's
young.
talk about
They're
the
young and they have
elephant in the room
potential.
here.
What?
Kristaps Porzingis. Is he going to be KD's number 2?
I think he's a fine number 2.
Is he really going to be the number 2?
If he comes back,
is he attracting KD to New York?
That's not what's attracting KD to New York.
What's attracting to KD to New York is the opportunity to maybe reverse this whole talk about Kate. I mean, it would be. I hate to talk about wrestling, but it would be a face turn for him. He's one of the biggest heels in the league, one of the most hated players in the league. Yep. He would immediately become a liked player, especially if he goes to New York and wins.
Yeah.
And you know, he has a business, a very close business partner who lives in New York, is a huge Knicks fan.
Yeah, it's me.
It's Richard. Wow, what a reveal!
This is the first time announced on the memo.
Damn, you scrap heaped him last week. That's fucked up.
I didn't scrap heap Durant.
Did you? Did you not?
No, I scrapped heaped. I did scrap heap Durant. I was thinking of LeBron because Kornfeld over there wouldn't let me do LeBron this week.
Yeah,
so
it's a huge opportunity for the guy's wallet, which he has come out and said that he cares about. So supposedly he has this close friend, whoever he is, I don't know who it is, and the most insecure guy in the league just wants to be liked, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that crazy.
Just watch out for some burner accounts saying, "Yo, I heard. I think KD should consider the Knicks."
Yeah.
Just look at the replies on his Twitter.
I don't know. The whole thing with KD to the Knicks is, like you said, with the allure to New York, this and that. I'm not buying that he really cares about that. If he wants to keep winning rings. It's obvious that's his priority. He doesn't care about what
He has come out
say.
and said that he wants money.
Yeah, he said it's all about the money this year.
Okay, that's fine. The other teams, like we heard on the caller, there's other teams that can offer money.
He's going to go to the Mavericks?
No.
I say he's going to go
to the Lakers. or he's going to stay in Golden State.
I don't want to talk about them.
It's one of those two options. It's a pipe dream for Knicks fans. Like
It's a
hear,
pipe dream.
I hear it coming out. Oh, this and that. We're gonna act like this is the first big free agent that has been linked to the Knicks. What's changing?
Look,
This
hey,
is a strong connection.
now I will
It's
talk about them.
You can't deny that it's
Every
stronger
year,
than
every year.
past years.
I say it too. Every year, there's a big free agents. They're going to the Lakers or the Knicks every year, and every year, I buy into it for a little bit, and then I'm disappointed. But the year came finally, and we got LeBron. It's bound to happen for the Knicks. The Knicks are eventually going to get someone. Maybe it won't be Durant, but I think. Look, I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but my personal point of view, I think you should do it.
All right.
Just think you should
I
do it.
have a
That was
text
funny.
from our last caller, Cooper Basson.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Tell
his time's
Brodsky I
up.
hope this is a good one. Tell Brodsky I hope he has nightmares of Nate Kading tonight.
Oh my God, a
And
cheap
Nunwa-
shot.
And Nunwa is a god.
Oh my
Wow.
God, from Coop. How do you hear about my Anunwa takes
Yeah,
already?
yeah.
You snake.
I texted him,
Oh
obviously.
my God. That we don't talk about Nate Kading. I have no memory of anything that happened with
Speaking
that
of
guy.
Nate Kading,
No, we're not speaking of Nate Kading.
we should do the scrap heap
Oh,
because of
God.
Nate
Can we do
Kading.
a retroactive Nate Kading scrap
Thought,
heap?
thought we
Yeah.
were better than that, Coop. Anyway.
You want to do the scrap heap?
Yeah. Let's
done
transition
with
to
the
the
Knicks?
scrap heap.
Let's get it
Yeah.
done.
Well, I mean, I forgot my last point, so let's continue to the scrap
I
heap.
just want to
Before I
show
completely
everyone our
black
nice
out.
folders. We made these for our fans. We're legit.
We made the Manila.
Yeah,
Part.
I went to the fields and chopped down trees and
Vanilla
got a-
folders, right, Corn?
I got a razor and
Just taking shots at Cornville.
I'm going first. I'm always first in the scrap heap. So I'm going to do a man, and you may have thought we should have done him a few weeks ago, but we didn't have this segment then, so we couldn't. So I'm doing Hugh Jackson. Everyone knows who Hugh Jackson is. He was the head coach of the Browns for 2 years. He went 1-15 in his first year.
Why don't you kick him while he's down?
He went 0-16 in his second year, and there were one and something when he got fired.
Maybe two. I don't
Two?
know.
Yeah, two, because he had 3 wins in 3 years, Hugh Jackson. Now, the reason I'm bringing up is because this whole situation just happened where he went on the field to say what up to Baker, and Baker gave him the cold shoulder. He went for the hug, and Baker gave him the no, not happening. And I know Matt doesn't really agree with this, but I think Baker is right to not want to be boys with Hugh Jackson, like the man who wanted him benched the entire season, the first overall pick of the draft, the man who the entire time he was there, we talk about positions to succeed, he was put in no position to succeed. The entire team was put in no position to succeed. And I want to read a few statistics off here. I got one. In the past 4 weeks since Hugh Jackson's been fired, Baker Mayfield has the second highest QB rating behind Drew Brees in these past 4 weeks. And like we said, he had 3 wins in 3 years. They're 2-2 in the last 4 weeks. So they already have 2 wins without him.
Why
And he
you-
couldn't get 3 in 700-something days, whatever it was.
Why are you talking to me like I'm defending Hugh Jackson's career?
I have a problem with you today. So,
He's a shitty fucking coach.
all right, I was just saying why Baker was right for not wanting to.
That's not why he's wrong still.
No, and also just
Finish
another
your
thing.
point, I'll obliterate you
Since
again.
Hugh Jackson got fired, the Browns are 10 for 10 in the red zone.
Wow.
Yeah, and Baker's looking legit. He's now possibly in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. The team looks
Oh, he is.
motivated. I said conversation. I didn't say he's winning.
I'm
And
not gonna say it.
not gonna say what.
It's not about you. Relax. It's about Alex.
All right. All right. Just, you're gonna throw
What's
that
up?
in the middle of my scrap heap. He's clearly a terrible coach. What more can you say? I mean, I had to do him. He got fired a few weeks ago. We never talked about it really. Had to bring him up. This guy's taken L's at every aspect of his life, and he plays the Browns. He goes back to the Bengals. He's an assistant coach, and they lose. I mean, it's not really on him, but it's just like, come on. How much more can this guy just fail?
You'd like to think that the guy coached Baker for the past 3-4 months or whatever. you'd like to think that he maybe had the inside scoop, knew a way to stop him, and then Baker goes in and torches you. Like
Baker said
you could not have proved. Forget the last few years. In that one day, you could not have proved that you
probably
are
changed the
one of
entire
the-
system.
Okay, what I wanted to say
What did
was
you want to say?
no, I'm not defending Hugh Jackson. Everything that you said is right.
The disrespect.
Everything that you said is right, and I could scrap him too. I don't like Hugh Jackson by any means. The one thing, and first of all,
Does Hugh Jackson's wife even like him? That was mean.
We're talking
I'm
about
sorry, Hugh.
people's family matters now. The answer is no.
okay, all right. The point that I'm making, first of all, Baker was playing fine with Hugh Jackson. He's been good pretty much all season.
Yeah.
He's putting together a couple more good games because he's developing a little more. But whatever, I'm not here to defend Hugh Jackson. Baker was wrong for what he said about holding this grudge that Jackson's going to Cincinnati. That's stupid, man. He got fired by the team. I know you agree with me.
He might have just said that, but you know there's more than just that.
No, he
Dude,
wants
there's
it
no
to
way
be
he
that.
likes
He's
him.
forcing to be mad at him because it's a division rival. He got fired from his job. He
Should have
probably
been
did
fired from his
yeah,
job.
of course. But he doesn't owe the Browns anything anymore. How many offers do you think Hugh Jackson had? He went back to the one team where he came from originally, the only team that probably would take him back. The man needs a job. He's not going to go unemployed.
I think it
There's
goes
nothing
beyond
wrong
the
with him
Bengals
going-
thing.
All right, that's fine. Then say that. Don't put the Bengals front up because it's
just
a
don't say
division
anything.
rival.
Just fucking hug the guy and fucking move along.
Don't hug the guy. I don't
Don't
agree with
hug the
hugging the
guy.
guy, but
Okay.
but don't
That's
just.
that's petty to me.
Why is it
He doesn't
petty?
like him.
Hugh Jackson's
Just
petty.
fucking.
Hugh Jackson was like,
nice to see you.
Hugh Jackson
It's
was
not
gonna.
nice to see
If
him.
Tyrod Taylor never got hurt, Hugh Jackson was trying to prove he could win without
That's true.
drafting Baker.
I
He
don't
was-
agree with having to hug him. If he doesn't like the guy, he doesn't like the guy. But I mean,
Screw him.
that reason just
ne-
makes no sense.
He'll
to
never
me.
be relevant ever again after this. So yeah, we just ended
Doesn't
Hugh
matter.
Jackson
Doesn't matter.
right here on the memo. Who
Yep.
wants to go next?
Another L for Hugh.
Another on his 3-38 record.
All right, I could take the next one.
So we're gonna end the podcast.
Should get up there and give me a few notes.
Oh, you were waiting to hear that.
Alex has been preparing that one. Too bad no one understands.
Don't make me out you guys on live podcast.
Who you got on that Manila folder?
Yeah, you would like me for me to divert the attention away, huh?
Well, the segment's called the Scrap Heap.
Okay.
Probably should
I'm
do
gonna
it.
pull out this picture of Richard I have. On to the next scrap heap. I actually have two people to scrap heap. Leonard Fournette and Jalen Ramsey. You know, Jaguars started off a nice 3-1. Coming off an appearance in the AFC Championship, everybody's favorite team, you know, the underdogs, the Jaguars. They're finally relevant. Matt,
I'm not completely wrong yet.
really? Okay.
Holding out hope.
Anyway,
Kessler.
fast forward 6 games. They lost every last one of them. Not against good teams or anything. It wasn't the unlucky draw. They lose to bad teams, good teams, whoever it is. They lose because they're a bad team. And finally, we get Leonard Fournette back on the field a couple weeks ago. You know, that was their problem, right? They didn't have Leonard Fournette. You know, it wasn't opening things up for Bortles. You know, the defense is still it's still pretty good. It's a pretty good secondary. You know, they're still showing up. So Fournette's back. You know, the problem solved. Well, they lose the first 2 games he plays. He plays terribly, and then finally he's breaking out. He's back. He has 98 yards in the third quarter against the Bills. 2 touchdowns against the Bills. And whatever happens on that play, it's a jump ball down by the end zone, a little scuffle, and Fournette decides, "Oh, I'm finally back on the field. Why don't I go up to Shaq Lawson, an enormous defensive lineman on the Bills? He's a lineman, right?
Yeah.
And why don't I go throw some punches at his face and then push him all the way over to the fans, the Bills fans, and I'll throw some more punches and completely stop my team's momentum, get ejected from the game, and set my team up on the goal line with our backup running back. Who is it? Carlos Hyde?
Yep.
Not good. Not as good as you, at least. But yeah, we were all waiting for you, Leonard, to come back, save the Jaguars season, and you just had to go fucking melee on Shaq Lawson. And that's only half of it, you know. There's also this guy, Jalen Ramsey, who's running his mouth all season. Not all
off season too.
All off season about this quarterback sucks. This quarterback is trash. This quarterback is not that good. Whatever.
Odell made Eli's career.
Whatever the hell he said. He comes out and says Josh Allen is a terrible quarterback and they made a mistake drafting him. Well, sorry, Jalen, but Josh Allen just beat your team on Sunday. And it's not like he's some top-of-the-line quarterback that is playing for a good team. This is the Buffalo Bills we're talking about. They aren't very good either. So just really, really disappointed with these two players we're supposed to be. I mean, Jalen's still good. Fournette is kind of disappointing in my opinion, but
I agree.
These two guys were once looked at upon as being like stalwarts on this team. Like these were the two guys that were gonna. I guess you could throw Bortles in there, but these were the young guys that were making the Jaguars the Jaguars.
And Bortles is the only one still doing it.
Yeah. Respect to Bortles for that.
He got
But
benched.
yeah, he did get benched. But come on, guys, and the entire Jaguars team, like, come on, this is just atrocious. Coming off an appearance in the AFC Championship, and you're gonna lose 7 games in a row. Just embarrassing. Bottom line is, Jalen Ramsey, stop running your fucking mouth. Just get out there and play. Maybe win a few games here and there. Leonard Fournette, stay on the fucking field, dude. You're healthy now. You have no excuse. And now you're going to go out and miss another game because you had to throw punches? Come on, man. You're not good enough to be out there. You're a borderline bust. You can't get on the field. You can't stay on the field. You can't stay healthy, first of all. And even when you are healthy, you have a hard time staying on the field. So how much value do you really have to this team?
Not much lately.
And Ramsey, you say everybody has an opinion. No, my opinion is your team sucks. Your team sucks. Your team is hugely disappointing. And you both should be really disappointed with yourselves.
Yeah. And
scrap heap.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of questions to answer in the offseason. Quarterback.
You gonna answer them for them?
I could answer them for them.
Your team sucks,
answer with
and your
Blake.
team wasn't that good last year. How about that?
Overrated.
Whoa. Let's not get into that conversation. Last scrap heap of the week. It's going to go to none other than our hometown guy, Mr. Pat Shermer. Let's hear it from the audience. We had gotten rid of Todd Bowles already in our first scrap heap, and It was only a matter of time before the second coach in New York was on the chopping block. Just from, I mean, you look at this past week. This was a team, they're up 19-3 at halftime. They were up 19-3. It looked like they were about to, continue to right the ship, get another nice win, division win, put the Eagles down even further, tie the Eagles for the division for the same record, not for the division, excuse me. And what do you do in the second half? You refuse to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, who I've said what I had to say about him, but the guy had over 100 yards in the first half. He was doing everything for that team. He had 2 touchdowns, just going crazy against the Eagles offense. And you give him the ball 5 times in the second half. Can anyone explain that? Anyone? I'm still waiting for any type of reason that you could have to say to defend that.
It's just a coach trying to get cute.
It's
right?
outsmarting himself.
And,
that is the exact situation that you want to just be feeding him the ball.
They
Keep
drafted
feeding
him for
the
this.
ball. And he
That's
has
why
the
he's there.
audacity in the post-game interview, Pat Shurmur, to look at the stat sheet and say, oh, well, he got 30 touches. 24 of them came in the first half, and you were winning. You were up 19-3, and you completely disappeared from the run game. When you have a lead like that, what do? You keep pounding the ball. You keep possession. You give it to the best player on their offense right now, Saquon Barkley. And on top of that, the other great player on offense, Odell Beckham Jr., gets 7 targets against a secondary who's starting 4 players that are backups. Their top 4 cornerbacks are not playing for Philadelphia. And Odell gets 7 targets, 5 catches for 85 yards. All right, I mean, you take 85 yards, no touchdowns. Like, 7 targets, man. You got
You double that, and
through the air and through the ground. What were they doing on offense? What kind of play calls were they running? They weren't involving their 2 best players on offense. It's completely unacceptable. It literally, we say that you mentioned earlier that players don't tank, players will never try to lose a game. That's a coach that coached that game as if he wanted to lose it. Mm-hmm. And you will never know the truth behind what actually happened. But my goodness, Shurmur, are you kidding me? Have some accountability. Like, dude, that is just unacceptable to not give the ball to your 2 star players. What if it's not Odell and it's not Barkley, who is it on that offense? That's how you lose a game. And what they do? They blew a game. They lost by 3 points when they were up by 16 in the second half.
19-3, and they lost 25-22.
Oh,
I was
3
so
points.
happy.
Don't you think the Giants are tired of losing to the Eagles?
Oh my gosh,
They've
that's
won
what
18 of the
fans
last
needed
22 or
man.
something. 18 of the last 20.
They've lost 18 of the last 22 games.
Barkley
against
could
their
have had
biggest
an-
rival.
Barkley could have had an all-time game that week against the Eagles, and they just, for whatever reason, they neglect him the ball in the second half. The only thing that I've heard is that they don't want to the wear and tear on Barkley, whatever. They don't want to put too much on his plate. They're giving it to him in the first
trying to
half.
win or not?
They've given it to him
Yeah.
for 12 weeks.
30
Don't
touches
play
is a
him.
lot.
Don't play him if you don't want to fucking have him get wear and
30
tear.
touches is a lot for a game. So it's not like getting them in the first half makes it better.
If you take a 19-3 lead, whether you intended to win or not win or save your starters or whatever, save your rookie, you cannot blow that game to a division rival like that. A win over the Eagles would have been massive for this team moving forward. Get them their 3rd straight win. Things are looking better. Barkley's looking great. But now it's all squandered. The season's officially over, and there's one man to be held accountable for this. It's Pat Shurmur. Jury's still out on if he's the guy for the Giants, honestly. Like he's made plenty of mistakes
We'll see.
this first season, and it's got to fix itself.
Going back to the Knicks talk, like if this is the prime example of you need to show your players that you want to win games. Regardless of where you are in the standings, regardless of what you need, regardless of what's coming up in the offseason, regardless of what pick you want, you need to show your players that, hey, whatever happens, we're going to fight till the end, and we're going to try to win this game. And you don't think Saquon Barkley is sitting there after the game like, why the fuck would I want to play for this team?
Exactly, and he said all the right things in the postgame. I don't have the exact quotes, but he kind of just, played it off. He said it's not about me. Right. Odell, of course, voiced his concerns. He said with the injuries in the secondary, I thought we'd be exposing that a little more. We didn't. But
they are lucky that Odell kept his lips.
Yeah,
moderately
that's
shut.
mild. Yeah, and he said you got to ask the coach. But at the end of the day, it's clear that there's frustration in that locker room amongst the players. They know what they're capable of. I've said it week after week that the talent is there. It exists. And they're not being put in a position to show that talent week after week.
Now you like to be in a position to succeed, huh? Now you like that whole. But it didn't work for Quincy and Unwa and the Jets, did it? Position to succeed.
Oh, okay. And
Now
in an Odell conversation, you're gonna.
I'm
bring
not
up
even.
Quincy
You're talking.
and
You
Unwa.
just said the
No.
players in the locker room are.
Okay.
They're feeling they're not put in.
Well,
a position
because
to
we
succeed.
know that Odell has talent that can be showcased.
I'm not comparing Enunwa to Odell.
You literally just did that.
No, you said the players on the roster are thinking, why would I want to play here? I'm not being put in the position to succeed. That goes beyond Odell.
Odell, dude. Oh, I was talking about Odell.
Yeah,
He has the talent that needs to be showcased, and it's not being showcased. Enunwa should be lucky he still has a job in this league.
All right, we won't get back into that.
You asked for that.
It's just funny. It's just funny when you agree with it when it's
Premier
for
player,
your point.
the highest paid receiver.
I didn't know you were talking about just Odell.
Get
I
him
thought you just
involved.
meant the players in general.
Who'd I mention for the past 10 minutes?
You just said the players there's clearly dysfunction, something wrong in the locker room. The players don't feel that they're in a position to succeed. That's what you said. That's what I responded to.
Okay, because you had Odell voice that concern and literally say that. Anunwa is probably thinking, oh, man, another week. I'm still on a team. I still have a contract.
Yeah. They're about to sign him to an extension, actually. So
Wow.
that's good for him.